It begins with a quiet, almost invisible moment. A man stands in a crowded marketplace, holding a piece of paper. Not gold, not grain, not anything with weight or substance, just paper with a number stamped on it. He trades it for food, for shelter, for survival. Everyone around him treats the paper as real, as if it contains power, value, certainty. But tonight, for the first time, he asks himself a forbidden question. What if this paper means nothing at all? Because deep inside the global machine, beneath the banks, beneath the governments, beneath the digital screens flashing prices and charts, there is a secret almost no one confronts. Money is not a thing. It is a story, a shared hallucination held together by collective belief. And the real danger isn't that the illusion exists. The real danger is what happens the moment people realize it. When belief collapses, everything collapses with it. Why does a simple idea, money is an illusion, feel so unsettling? Because if the thing we spend our lives chasing, saving, fearing, and losing isn't real in the way we think it is, then every decision we make sits on a fragile foundation. And that leads us to the core question of this documentary. If money is an illusion, why does the illusion work so perfectly? And what happens when it stops? To understand this, we have to return to something uncomfortable, something most people feel but rarely articulate. We don't interact with the world as it is. We interact with the world we believe it is. A green piece of paper becomes food because we believe it can. A number on a bank screen becomes survival because we agree it represents value. A currency becomes strong, not because it is backed by anything physical, but because millions of people, institutions, and governments behave as if it is. Money is nothing more than a contract of faith, a collective trust embedded in the human mind. But here's the tension. Faith can weaken, belief can wobble, trust can evaporate in a single day. When that happens, the illusion doesn't gently fade. It shatters, violently, suddenly, without warning. Most people imagine economic collapse as a slow, predictable decline. But historically, collapses happen in a flash. The moment people collectively wake up and say, wait, this thing I treat as real is no longer real enough. A bank run begins when a handful of people lose trust. Hyperinflation begins when belief drains faster than governments can print. Currency collapse begins when the world quietly shifts its faith elsewhere. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. The illusion of money is not maintained by stability. It is maintained by fear of instability. People trust money because the alternative, chaos, is terrifying. Governments rely on this fear. Banks depend on it. Entire nations survive because the population agrees to keep believing in a system they cannot see and do not control. You work for numbers, you save numbers, you worry about numbers, but numbers cannot feed you, numbers cannot shelter you, numbers cannot keep you alive, unless everyone agrees to pretend they can. This is why the question truly matters. If the foundation of the global financial system is belief, then the real power doesn't belong to the printers of money, but to the holders of belief. And belief is shifting, slowly at first, then rapidly, silently, then all at once. Digital currencies, AI-driven markets, nations abandoning the dollar, people questioning inflation, debt, and the meaning of value itself. The illusion is trembling, but the world isn't ready for what comes after the trembling. The moment when millions of people simultaneously reach the conclusion, the man in the marketplace whispered to himself, what if this isn't real? Because when enough people ask that question, history doesn't move forward, it breaks. To understand why money is an illusion, we have to go beneath the surface, beneath the banks, beneath the markets, beneath the symbols printed on currency, to the root most people never see. Money was never created to measure value. It was created to control behavior. Imagine a world long before coins or paper. No banks, no interest rates, no accounts, only people, trading what they had for what they needed. A farmer gives grain to a fisherman. A potter gives bowls to a carpenter. Value is physical, tangible, undeniable. But human societies grew, and so did something else. Distance. Distance between what people wanted and what they could produce. Distance between rulers and the ruled. Distance between the powerful and everyone else. And when distance expands, a new force emerges, a force designed to bridge the gap, to manage the crowd, to standardize obedience. This force needed to be small enough to carry, trusted enough to trade, and abstract enough to reshape how people behave without them noticing. So rulers invented a symbol, a coin, a seal, a stamped promise. But here's the part. History textbooks soften. The first currencies were not created to make trade easier. They were created to tax, to mobilize armies, to centralize control, to ensure every citizen participated in the ruler system. And for the symbol to work, people had to believe it, not understand it, not challenge it, just believe. This was the birth of the illusion. Now imagine the world shifting into a cinematic dream sequence. A kingdom suspended in twilight, shadows of merchants exchanging coins, grids of ink-black ledgers stretching toward the horizon, empires rising and falling like waves, each empire claiming its money is real, until one day it isn't. The illusion travels across centuries, from gold coins stamped with emperors to paper notes stamped with governments to digital numbers stamped with nothing at all. Every step in this evolution makes money less physical, more symbolic, more detached from anything you can touch or verify. And here's where the hidden root becomes visible. The more abstract money becomes, the easier it is for those in power to manipulate it, and the harder it is for ordinary people to recognize the illusion. Debt becomes money, promises become money, future productivity becomes money, and eventually money becomes nothing but belief. Look closer. Behind every dollar, every rupee, every euro, every yen, there is no treasure chest, no vault of gold, no storehouse of real value. There is only a story that says, this paper represents something. This number in your account is real. This system is stable, but follow the roots downward, past the stories, past the institutions, and you find something unsettling. Money only works because we fear the alternative. We fear hunger, we fear uncertainty, we fear being outside the system that distributes resources. So we accept the illusion, we defend it, we even fight wars for it. But illusions have a lifespan, and humanity is now approaching a moment that every previous civilization has faced. When money becomes too abstract, too manipulated, too detached from real value, people begin to question it. And when questioning begins, belief weakens. And when belief weakens, the illusion cracks. And when the illusion cracks, systems collapse. Not slowly, not predictably, but suddenly, like a glass ceiling giving way. The hidden root of money is this. It exists only in the minds of those who trust it. Remove the trust, and what remains isn't a system. It's rubble. And for the first time in modern history, billions of people, across nations, across classes, across generations, are quietly asking the same forbidden question: does this system still deserve my belief? History does not repeat. It rhymes, quietly, subtly, like an echo from a forgotten age. And every time money detached itself from reality, every time belief cracked, civilizations trembled. Let's walk through the mirrors. Mirror 1, ancient Rome. For centuries, Rome anchored its currency in silver. Real metal, real weight, real value. But wars are expensive, empires are hungry, and rulers discovered a seductive trick. Dilute the coin, stretch the illusion, pretend nothing changed. Silver coins became bronze coins coated in silver, then thin coatings, then barely any silver at all. But here's where it gets strange. The public didn't revolt at first. They accepted the illusion because the empire told them to, because belief felt safer than truth. Until one day it didn't. Prices exploded, markets froze, trust evaporated. Rome didn't fall because of barbarians. Rome fell because people realized the money wasn't real. Mirror 2, the French Revolution. Most people remember the guillotines. They forget the hyperinflation that came first. France printed a new currency, the assignat, claiming it was backed by land. A beautiful illusion, but the government printed more, and more, and more. Soon, citizens needed wheelbarrows of notes to buy bread. And here's the part most people never hear. Before the mob stormed the palace, before the monarchy collapsed, the people stopped believing in the currency. The illusion snapped, and the nation followed. Mirror 3, Weimar, Germany. Images of children stacking banknotes like building blocks, men burning money because it was cheaper than firewood. These are symbols of a deeper truth. When belief collapses, money returns to its real value, zero. But there's an even stranger twist. During the early stages of the collapse, many Germans felt nothing was wrong. The stock market was booming. People felt richer than ever. The illusion wasn't weakening. It was accelerating. Until the day the awakening came, and the illusion died overnight. Mirror 4, the 2008 crisis. This is the one people think they understand. Banks collapsed. Markets crashed. People lost jobs, homes, retirement savings. But the real story is what happened in the shadows. Money itself almost stopped. Not dollars, not credit cards, not cash. Belief. Banks stopped trusting banks. Investors stopped trusting markets. People stopped trusting the system. And this is the part most documentaries never mention. For 72 hours, the global financial system was within inches of freezing, not because money lacked value, but because belief was melting. We saved the system not with cash injections, but with confidence injections, a restart of faith, a reset of trust, a temporary repair of the illusion. The pattern, across every civilization, across every era, across every collapse, one pattern repeats. Money dies the moment people see behind the curtain. Not when inflation rises, not when debt grows, not when governments panic. The end begins when the illusion becomes visible, when people connect the dots and whisper, this isn't real anymore. Every historical mirror points to one truth. Money survives only as long as the story remains convincing. And right now, in this moment, with global debt at unimaginable levels, with currencies losing purchasing power, with nations shifting alliances, with digital systems replacing physical ones, the story is wearing thin. The mirror is about to reflect us. If history shows the illusion repeating, then the question becomes unavoidable. What exactly is the mechanism behind the illusion? How does the system make something unreal feel unbreakably real? To answer this, imagine the global financial system not as banks and markets, but as a vast, invisible machine suspended in darkness. A machine made of debt, belief, and mathematical obedience. Most people think money is created when governments print it, but that's only the surface layer, the theatrical stage. The real creation happens somewhere else. Deep inside the machine, in a place almost no citizen sees, money appears when a bank issues a loan, not backed by gold, not backed by savings, not backed by anything except the bank's confidence that you will repay it. Debt becomes money, money becomes debt. The two are indistinguishable. And here's where the illusion becomes breathtakingly elegant. Every dollar you hold, every digital balance you check, every payment you make is part of a chain of promises, not a vault of value. If people repay their loans, the illusion strengthens. If people default, the illusion contracts. Every financial crisis is simply the machine struggling to keep the illusion inflated. But here's the part that feels almost surreal. When governments rescue the system, they don't fix the illusion. They reinforce it. They pump more debt into the machine, creating more money, which creates more dependence on the very system that caused the instability. It's a loop, self-repairing, self-expanding, self-consuming, a serpent eating its own tail, and yet we trust it. Why? Because the system hides its fragility behind three powerful mechanisms. Mechanism 1, complexity. If people truly understood how money works, the illusion would collapse instantly. So the system buries everything under jargon: quantitative easing, liquidity injections, reserve requirements, monetary policy, fiscal levers, balance sheet expansion. Words designed not to explain, but to overwhelm. A population that cannot see the illusion cannot question it. Mechanism 2, scarcity. The system manufactures artificial scarcity. It convinces you that without money, you cannot live. Even though the world still contains food, water, land, resources, it ties survival to currency. Not because money is real, but because the fear of losing it makes the illusion unbreakable. Scarcity forces obedience. Mechanism 3, stability. Theater. Every chart you see, every interest rate announcement, every emergency meeting, every financial headline is part of a performance. A theater designed to signal everything is under control. Because if the population ever realizes the system is built on belief, that belief dissolves, and the machine cannot survive even a moment without it. Now here is the most haunting reveal. Money does not derive value from what it is. Money derives value from what we are willing to sacrifice for it. Our time, our labor, our dreams, our lives. We exchange our hours, pieces of our existence, for numbers on a screen. And as long as we continue to sacrifice ourselves for the illusion remains powerful. But what happens when people stop? What happens when enough individuals, enough nations, enough generations step back and whisper, if this is all belief, why am I giving it my life? That is the question the system fears. Because once the illusion is seen, it cannot be unseen. We are living in a moment unlike any other in financial history. A moment where the illusion is thinning, faster than governments can reinforce it, faster than central banks can disguise it. For decades, the money system relied on a silent agreement. People would not question it, and the system would not collapse. But today, for the first time in the modern age, that agreement is failing. Let's step into the present. A world shifting away from the dollar. For nearly a century, the US dollar sat at the center of global belief. Nations didn't just use it, they trusted it more than their own currencies. But belief is shifting. BRICS. Nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, are openly building alternatives. Energy deals are being made outside the dollar. Gold reserves are rising globally. Countries once dependent on the US financial system are now quietly creating escape routes. This isn't politics. It's a transfer of belief, the most dangerous transfer of all. The world is no longer convinced that one nation's currency should anchor the fate of 8 billion people, and when that belief weakens, the illusion trembles. Inflation. The moment people feel the lie. For most of history, the illusion worked because it was invisible. Money looked stable, prices behaved, belief remained unchallenged, but inflation makes the illusion physical. Suddenly, the same dollar buys less food, less fuel, less life. People feel value disappearing in real time. They begin to ask questions the system cannot answer. How can my money lose value if the value was real? Inflation is not a rise in prices. Inflation is a loss of trust. It is the moment belief slips and the illusion reveals its cracks. The rise of digital currencies and AI. In the shadows of this shifting world, new forms of money are emerging, some born from governments, others from code. AI-driven markets monitor every transaction. Digital currencies track every movement. Cash is fading. Physical money is dying. A new illusion is being prepared, one that is programmable, traceable, and infinitely more controllable. But here's the part the public doesn't see. Digital money is not the evolution of currency. It is the total abstraction of currency. Value becomes numbers. Numbers become data. Data becomes behavior. We aren't just using money. Money is beginning to use us. Global debt. The final signal. Human civilization now holds more debt than at any point in recorded history. Governments owe money they cannot repay. Corporations owe money they cannot justify. People owe money they will never escape. Debt has grown so large, it can no longer be paid back. But here's the strange twist. The system doesn't expect repayment. The system expects belief. As long as people believe the debt can be managed, as long as they believe the system can continue, the illusion survives. But when that belief fades, when nations default, when currencies devalue, when markets freeze, the illusion collapses, not slowly, not predictably, but violently. The moment we are entering, every signal, economic, political, technological, psychological, points to a global awakening. For the first time, millions are realizing money is not wealth, money is not value, money is not security, money is a story we no longer fully believe. And when a civilization stops believing its own story, a new chapter begins. One written in uncertainty, one written in conflict, one written in transformation. We are standing at the edge of that chapter now, the moment when the illusion becomes visible, and once visible, it cannot remain intact. In the end, the story of money is not really a story about currency at all. It's a story about us, what we choose to believe, what we fear to question, and what we sacrifice in the name of stability. For thousands of years, money has been the silent architecture of human civilization. It shaped our governments, it shaped our wars, it shaped our dreams, it shaped the boundaries of what we thought was possible. But now, for the first time in the modern world, a veil is lifting. People are beginning to see money not as a force of nature, but as a construct, a symbol held in place by trust, obedience, and the quiet hope that tomorrow will look like today. And when you realize money is an illusion, something shifts inside you. You begin to see the difference between value and price, between wealth and possession, between living and earning a living. You begin to question, why do we trade our time, the only thing we truly own, for pieces of paper that lose value every year? Why do we measure success in digits when nothing meaningful in the human experience can be captured by a number? Why do we build our lives around a system that needs our belief more than we need its permission? When money becomes visible as an illusion, you stop chasing it, you start observing it. And in that observation, you reclaim something the world quietly took from you: agency. Because if money is a story, then stories can change. If money is a belief, then beliefs can evolve. And if money is an illusion, then the real question is not what happens when the illusion collapses. The real question is, what will we build when we no longer believe in the old story? Maybe wealth won't be measured in digits. Maybe value won't come from banks. Maybe the next system will be built not on fear, but on understanding. And maybe, just maybe, money wasn't the illusion at all. Maybe the illusion was the world we built around it. So let me leave you with one final question. One you must answer for yourself. If money stopped meaning what it used to, what would you begin to value instead? Tell me in the comments.